Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wednesday. I just finished my fifth and final Super Metroid stream, so now I can say I have finished Super Metroid. And my very first thought upon finishing the game is, holy crap, Super Metroid was phenomenal. I know I talked a little bit about it after I did the first stream and first got a chance to play around with it, but it's very good. It is very, very good. I have been playing video games for a long time, and in that time, I have heard people talk about Super Metroid with a lot of respect. A lot of people hold this game in a very high place, and even though I had never played it or even was super, super familiar with it in the sense that I hadn't watched speed runs or randomizers or any of that. Despite not doing that, I still understood that this was a very revered video game. And it's really fun to experience those sorts of games for the first time. Because there are certain video games that they stand the test of time, and Super Metroid is one of them. Super Metroid is 30 years old as of this year, and it is extremely good. It is still extremely good. It is very accessible at this point because you can play it on NSO, and I would highly recommend folks do that. If you don't play the other games, that's fine, but Super Metroid is one that probably deserves your time. It is genre defining, and it has so many parts that kind of, I don't want to phrase it as take your breath away, but there are a lot of surprises in the game. I think the thing that I appreciated the most when I would coming away from the game and thinking back to it, and because you can only ever discover this once, I'm not going to spoil this for anyone that hasn't played this game, but about halfway through the video game, you learn about a move that you've had since the beginning that they just didn't teach you. And I really loved that. I really, really, really loved that. There's another part of the game where you get a particular move, and that's cool and all, but you learn that there's actually an entire other hidden move associated with it. I ended up discovering that on my own, but there's also a part of the game that teaches you, but again, it's later. The fact that these sorts of things are in the middle of the game is very fun because you spend, the first half of the game exploring. There's definitely opportunities for sequence breaking, like in the first two, especially the second Metroid. But when you learn that you've had this move the whole game and you didn't even know you could do it, that's wild, because then you immediately start thinking back to some of the other aspects of the game and you're like, wait, I could have gotten this early. I could have done this. I could have, there's so many things that could have changed. And I guess if you're really good, you could even do the bomb jumps and try and do the bomb jumps early. That's not what I'm referring to, but yeah, I don't know. I really, really loved that. I also found out that there's a bunch of secret moves in the game. I know I'm already describing those, but I had learned. And I think this is new for even a lot of people, because whenever I had been told about them in chat and then I did them, there were a lot of people in chat that were like, I did not know this was a thing. But one of the things that you can do in the game is you get different types of beams. And fortunately, unlike Metroid 1 and 2, you just have the beams and you can turn them on and off as you need them, as opposed to having to backtrack to find where you got them to replace them. And because you can turn your beams on and off, I think you have to keep your charge beam on and then one other beam. And then you charge that up. And if you charge that up while you have power bomb selected, I think, you there's like a special effect for each individual beam. It's the sort of thing that is so incredibly obtuse, you would never figure that out. You just wouldn't. It's too, it doesn't make sense to try, basically. And one thing I haven't looked at, but I'm interested, is checking to see if it's written in the manual or the player's guide. I assume it's probably at least in the player's guide. But like that sort of thing is just wild. There is so much depth to Super Metroid, and I really enjoyed my time with it. I enjoyed Metroid 1 and 2, and Metroid 1, I mean, again, it's an old game, but you can really appreciate what they were trying to do. And in many ways, they succeeded. It's a little difficult to play now, sure, but I really enjoyed playing it because it made me appreciate Metroid 2, and then especially Super Metroid even more. Anyway, it's very rare for me to really like gush about like a new game or something that I've played. Well, new to me. And Super Metroid just really deserves it. I enjoyed the first two games, but man, Super Metroid really is a masterpiece. And it's set up in such a way where it wants you to replay it. When you finish the game, it gives you your item completion percentage, so you know how much of the stuff you got, and then it also gives you a time, like the other Metroid games. So it wants you to play it again and again and get familiar with the map and move even faster. I think it'll be a while before I touch Super Metroid again, but I think I probably will play it again at some point. I think I will, because it was wildly fun. It really was. I've had a few people tell me that maybe I should consider playing like a randomizer with it or something, and maybe. Although I'll tell you, I've never done anything with randomizers, and I think it's illegal for me to not make my very first game randomizer Chaz's Earthbound randomizer. So that's probably the first thing I would try if I get around to doing that. So now that Super Metroid is over, I have had to think about what I want to do next, and I think that next week I am going to start Metroid Fusion. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do 4 Metroid games in a row, because it is a lot. But that's the end of the streak of 2D Metroid games. Metroid Fusion is Metroid 4. And if I finish that one, I think that is where I will step away from the series for a while and then come back to it later, maybe revisiting with some of the 3D stuff, maybe try Prime, I don't know. But Fusion is the one that I have played. It was my first Metroid game. I got it when it came out in 2002. I beat it, and I remember enjoying it, but I think I'm going to enjoy it a lot more having played the first 3 games, which I hadn't done when I played Fusion originally. And I did pretty good at Super. I was proud of myself, so I'm really curious to see how I will fare in Fusion. And again, one of the reasons I've been playing the Metroid series in order like this is because I like to see how the game mechanics and the game design has changed over time. And I'm really curious to see what changes between Super Metroid and Fusion, because they had 8 years. And I don't know, because it's been so long ago since I played Fusion, but that part's really particularly thrilling to me, so I'm looking forward to it. But it does mean I have to make a new layout inspired by GBA, so I'll have to do that over the course of the next week so I can get that ready for next time. Anyway, that's it. Just wanted to gush about a game. Again, I loved the first 2 games, but I also understand that it's hard for people to go back and play those. Makes sense. It is not hard to go back and play Super Metroid. That game is great. And if you haven't played it, do so. It's well worth your time. My completion time ended up being probably right around 8 hours, maybe a little bit north of 8 hours. if you weren't as thorough, it would probably be a little bit shorter. I really wanted to like try and complete the map as best I could. And I didn't use a player's guide or anything. I only just figured stuff out on my own, but man, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. All right, talk about Super Metroid down below. If you have a spoilery thing to say, just mark it as a spoiler so, you know, you don't spoil anyone, but it was great. It was really, really great. And the VODs are out now, so if you want to watch it immediately, you can watch it on the VOD channel. At some point, Dan will have episodes out, but Metroid 2 is still coming out, so it'll probably be a while before that happens. Thanks for watching. Let's meet back tomorrow, shall we?